everyone, and welcome back to Reverse the Verse. We had some small technical difficulties there. We have some newer technology we're playing with, and this is a nice, fun test. So we're going to run through the top of the show again, but get started immediately. Welcome to Reverse the Verse. If you haven't been here before, it's our weekly live stream. This week we're doing it out of Los Angeles studio to follow up with our Los Angeles Around the Verse. Specifically, we're going to focus on the character pipeline. My name is Eric Kyron Davis, and I'll be your host. Joining me to my right is Corey Johnson, our lead character artist.
Hello.
And Forrest Steffen, our CG supervisor. So in the same vein of the character pipeline video, the then and now, that's why we've invited these gentlemen to kind of extend the conversation, dig into a few additional topics. If you haven't been here before, please head over to robertspaceindustriescom/community/chat. Title your questions with the bracket question, and we will pick them up and run with them. So to get started, let's dive in, and thank everyone for doing this. Obviously, thank you subscribers for letting us do this. And our first question for you guys are, what's the most fun part of the pipeline? What do you guys really look forward to? What does the character team look forward to, then and now? Or even if it's all the same answer.
Would you say it's ZBrush or re-topologizing?
Definitely ZBrush. High poly is it's the most fun part. Texturing is good as well. Game mesh and UV is just kind
Put
of
on your headphones.
Yeah, it's the
out.
meditative, like you just have to do it and get through it.
And what does that mean? What layman's terms? What does that mean when you re-topologize something?
Just building a mesh that can actually go in the game.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because the high polys can be, several million, tens of million polys, and can never go in.
So essentially, you kind of freeze your mesh, kind of like you have your high poly, then you bring, then you decimate it, and then bring it into your retopology tool, and then start tracing over it with polys and try to recreate the same exact shape with the least amount of polys as possible.
Sure.
Yep.
Yet enough for animation to still be able to move it around.
Interesting.
And like Corey mentions in the video, about having to keep the silhouette and making sure that no matter what angle you look at that thing in a 3D space, it will always create the exact same silhouette. That way the character doesn't get lost in the translation between the high and low.
That's cool. I would assumed you guys would have said the high poly phase because you get to make such detail, but I think that's cool, the challenge. You guys, it seems like you're attracted to the challenge of going, all right, we got this really pretty thing that looks awesome. It's a lot of polys. Will never work in game, but now we get to put it in game and ultimately get to see it.
Yeah, there's two aspects. There's the making it as good as you want it to be, and then there's the ability to get it in the game to mimic how great your original source looked.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. Okay, our questions are rolling in. So on top of that one we just asked, yesterday, in yesterday's ATV I saw a short clip of the character Eugene Morrow talking as an animation teacher. I'm worried by the lack of eyelids and eyebrow muscle movement, which makes him look more lifeless. It's as if the muscles in the face stop working below the eye bags and above. Is this going to be fixed? Because you'd be surprised at how much eyelids and eyebrows movement there is when people talk. Not only that, if you exaggerate those muscles, rather than toning them down, the characters will become even more believable rather than lifeless.
I love that question.
That's a great question, yeah.
So I took that video, and the first thing was, when I did it, there's actually a longer version that he goes through this whole, these lines that he recorded for us. And I noticed when I took the video that he never blinked at all. Yep. And there was very little muscle movement around the eyes in general. And I was like, this is weird. This doesn't.
You're talking about the one we got it in engine. You see, yep.
And I'm like, this is just strange. Like he's not blinking. And so I went back and I pulled up all of his videos of the actor himself. And actually watched the entire clips of the same exact lines that I had playing on the character, because I'm like, oh, surely animation just didn't add the eye blinks and everything, and he doesn't blink.
The actor never actually blinks.
Never blinks the entire time. I'm like, this can't be right, because when they blink, we get that data, and our characters blink, and the lines that are 100% acted out and set, everything moves accordingly, including the eyelids.
It was an acting choice partially, but also it's interesting that, and you see this in other areas within the CG world, of by adding imperfections or adding more human elements, you can make it more realistic, right? That's the whole lens grime effect and things like that on the camera.
That's something the character team did a great job at, taking our base heads and then adding this right?
That's great. So tell the actor to blink more. That's the
Well,
that's the goal.
I think that's a good point though. We do find that, you know, when you exaggerate things, it can bring it to life more, especially like on a computer screen.
Totally.
We're putting all these effects over it.
Yeah.
There's only so much realism. You're still not 100% there yet, and so you got to exaggerate things and catch that person's attention. But heads are also hard because they're the things that we always look at. We all know what a head is supposed to look like because we stare at them.
Totally. So Corey, are the eyelids there? Are the eye muscles there? Right? Do we take those into consideration on the heads?
Yeah. I mean, all that stuff's there. It's
just if the actor chooses not to use them.
Yeah. If it wasn't in the basically the source material, the capture, that's something that if it ends up bothering enough people, animators can surely go in and add that.
Totally.
But
it becomes
maybe that just adds to the Mario character. He is just a guy who doesn't blink that often.
He's super intense. He's always
he's a lot of eyebrow raises, not a lot of blinking.
Very cool. Okay, another question we had here. So on the video, we saw you wearing headphones. I would think audio has nothing to do with the character creation. So what do you need the headphones for? I think this is partially a funny question.
Lots of music and videos.
Sure.
To keep you going because you're sitting on a computer 8+ hours a day. So.
I have headphones because I share an office with Sean.
Sean Tracy, yes, the epic Sean Tracy.
Very loud.
Yeah.
In fact, Josh Herman, our art director, is right next door with Steve Bender.
Yeah.
And when Sean's in a meeting, I see them politely walk over to the glass.
Shut the door.
Slide it shut. I put my headphones on.
We all hear that passion. But I think this speaks to environment, kind of, right? What you create, you're simulating an environment of you can stay focused, you can knock things out. It kind of speaks to production and speed, and right, you're creating the right surroundings. Because we are in a larger atmosphere, right? We have this team atmosphere, these art pits or these design areas. But we got work to do. So instead of sticking everybody in offices or in small cubicles, it's this open area, which is nice. But you find yourself
sometimes
needing to focus and put a movie on or music on.
Yeah, and sometimes it's fun if you're working on something sci-fi, listen to sci-fi-ish music and just get in the zone.
I love doing
it's fun.
that. Yeah, definitely. If I have different playlists on my Spotify. If I'm working on VFX, I listen to one playlist that I have.
Sure.
If I'm,
What inspires that creative side of you?
writing
absolutely.
documentation, I have another one.
That's great.
I have my non-word playlist versus my word playlist.
That's awesome. Corey, the 2D versus 3D concepting, what do you prefer?
Both are great. With Jeremiah, when he does a 3D concept, it's great because it's usually something you can start from.
Yeah.
So it kind of jumpstarts the process of making it. But 2D is great too because you get to interpret things. So just slightly different things you get to do with both.
Totally.
They're both good.
And so they kind of offer you two different things, I'd assume, right?
You
get more creative license when it's a 2D concept.
Yeah.
Because you don't necessarily, even if you do orthos, right, you still may not know exactly what the back or the sides look like until you put it in.
Yeah, and for us, it's usually just front and back.
That's
so,
right. Forrest, here's a question. Do you like to create art in your spare time? If so, what?
I create all kinds of art in my spare time. All the time.
You keep making art.
I keep doing things. Yeah, all the time. I mean, it's one thing that I do is I in my free time, because with the CG supervisor role or just kind of jumping around from the different pipelines, it's really important that I always keep very up to date on latest software, and also understand what other software applications are doing to try to make sure that we're staying on par with everybody else, if not ahead, right? So I really understand other game engines. I understand lots of different software packages. When a new type of application comes out, whether it's a new version of Substance Designer or a new version of Marvelous, whatever. Like I'll push myself to make a little piece of art to utilize all the new features out of these applications. And then I'll do that, and then I'll be like, and I always will finish. Whenever I start an art thing, I don't just start working on a piece of art and then kind of go through the process. Because I really enjoy building out the pipelines. I want to know how to go from this program to this program to this program and make it as good as possible, right? And also, because I don't always spend a lot of time, like I don't build characters for 8 years out of my career. So when I jump to these different disciplines, I really try to utilize my inexperience with not having 8 years of doing something solid, but maybe only 2 years or 3 years. And to really utilize what the software has to offer to get me really far as how far I could push things, And so, I really enjoy the utilizing software, and then that generates some cool art,
Yeah, totally, and pushes you to learn new things and learn new tactics. And I think what's exciting about what Forrest does too is that he's allowed to R&D some ideas, while Corey's executing and getting things done.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily
Absolutely.
negatively impact the pipeline, but we're always looking ahead,
Right.
And that's kind of the idea. Cool. Corey, what kind of simple question? What goes simple question? Maybe not a simple answer. What goes into texturing these models?
It's a pretty interesting workflow. So it's the way we do it. We have submaterials, and each submaterial can have 4 layers. The 4th layer is the base layer, and then we build up variation on top of that. But it's pretty much just like a layer stack in Photoshop.
Cool.
So we have been working on making new materials, and then you just layer those up to get a cool effect. And
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's good.
Forrest, this one, I think this speaks to you. I think this was a piece you were talking about in the episode yesterday. In ATV, you mentioned that the cloth mesh can be seen when players get really close to each other. Actually, maybe Josh mentioned that. Was the clip through everything bug already solved so this is possible?
I don't understand the question. When the players hug, if they clip through each other?
Maybe. Let's go with that. We will ask for more clarification on that question. But
read
there is a
through-
bonus question.
Anything that mentioned that the cloth mesh can be seen when players get really close to each other. Was the clip through everything bug already solved?
So this is possible.
Bonus question, to extend, will players be able to personalize their armor by modifying PBR settings? Oh, okay. Well, let me answer to the latter one.
Sure.
Because I'm not sure about the clip bug, but I haven't had any clipping issues recently, so I'd imagine that it probably was solved.
And feel free, if you have a clarification on that question, toss it in there
Oh,
for
yeah.
us, and we will
Be
get
happy
that
to
to you.
answer.
Yeah. So to extend, so the bonus question Forrest just mentions, to which extent will players be able to personalize their armor by modifying PBR settings?
So I don't think there's a yes and a no to that question. So in the theory that you will more than likely, I'd be willing to bet, be able to select different surface types for the different pieces of armor and stuff like that. Like maybe this specific item supports 3 different types of materials, right? And and then that could be a plastic compared to a metal, compared to a carbon fiber, okay?
Yeah.
And in that, you would be choosing which one you would want. So in theory, you would be changing your PBR settings because you would be choosing these predefined things.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have the option to like drag the
sliders.
specular around
Yeah,
on
sliders.
it and try to figure out, and because we wouldn't want to expect you to know that 152, 153, 151 is a specific surface type, because everything is kind of hard-coded in there as far as what the recommended settings are to get the optimal visuals with your lighting conditions. So that could be a little tricky. But in the fashion that you'd be able to select through different surface types, and then within that surface type, select the different supported fabrics or textiles that would make up the patterns, right, of that. Maybe a secondary option would be about as far as I would imagine we would take it.
And then colors, of course.
Of course, the colors.
Changing
Oh my
colors.
goodness.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's a big one. Corey, here's a question for you. Interesting kind of creative question. How much of yourself do you put into your characters? I think that's a really interesting question because I think we all have different levels of ownership and excitement about this project, and we may not impact the whole thing, but we each have our piece. So how much of yourself do you sneak in or add to these characters?
When I'm at work, it's not a ton because I feel like when I'm at work, I'm a production artist and I'm producing a specific piece of art that needs to fit within certain requirements. Personal work, it's a lot more because it's like, that's like passion that you're putting in there. And of course you do the same thing that with work, but again, it's, I need to get to this result.
Totally.
And whatever it takes to get to there.
Totally. Yeah. That's great. That's a good question because I think that on the creative side, it kind of is a driving force of passion is a huge part of everything we do, right? Whether you work at home. So that's great. So here's a question for Forrest. How long does it take to create a completely new character like the Sand Nomad?
Well, I think me and we could both speak for that one.
Please. In fact, what I'd like to extend that question to, because I think this was interesting.
I can tell you how long did it used to take.
How long did it used to take?
And then you tell me how long it takes now.
There you go.
Then and now. So Well, originally the character would go through a great deal of revisions in the past because it was very difficult getting to the quality bar that we needed with the approach that was being taken in regards to the requirements needed, right? I think the old approach going taken works great for certain situations, but some of the limitations that the MMO portion puts on that and stresses on that really didn't let the characters get to their full potential. So, you would have a character artist or a group of them working on an asset for a couple months, and then it wouldn't pass a final approval process because it just wasn't quite right. And as we saw in the before and after, in yesterday's video, it was very clear that when we were seeing those, what we see now and what you see in the after is how we envisioned it to look.
Yeah.
And then before, we would see it and we'd be like, this is just not there yet.
Yeah.
We know that potential is not tapped yet, and Chris is very persistent in making sure we've tapped the potential of what we're capable of doing.
Totally.
And so you would move on to an additional month. Now you're at 4 months, and then you would go through one more revision, and now you're at 5 months, and the character's still not final. Yeah. But now, how long are we?
What's the now?
It was, I think 3 artists touched it, worked on it at different points and all that. And from the time they got the go-ahead, it was probably 3 weeks at most, I think.
3 weeks.
For the entire
3
run-through.
weeks.
That's great.
We're talking 5 months is something that was not, as good as it could be.
And that's with R&Ding new materials for it, because it's all new materials in the Sand Nomad.
That's great.
That Forrest and James worked on.
Cloth that we had never done before.
That's great.
I mean, the character team now are just killing it.
Totally.
Like, you can see the quality. They're just amazing.
And a big part of it is the talent's there, but now we've got the tech to support the talent.
It's
right?
both.
Like,
And
people don't realize I can make pretty things all I want.
Yeah,
but the tech's gotta
there's
support
a foundation in place, and the tech still isn't perfect yet. But now we have a foundation. We're creating things. We're getting things approved and out the door, right? Which is the most important thing now. And now we can only improve the process.
Totally.
So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. This was an interesting question about ideas, where the ideas come from. Corey, do you come up with some of the ideas for like the Worm and the Sand Nomad, or does someone else tell you what you should create, like something that they need?
The Sandworm, that was mostly Josh taking feedback and then just coming up with something. With the creatures, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of freedom. But with something like the marine armor that Omar was working on, like there's a design brief. There's very specific things it needs to hit. So I mean, just different assets allow different amounts of freedom, and all of us walk by Jeremiah and we make comments on the art he's doing. So and that stuff makes its way in.
Totally.
So,
I mean, well, that's the creative process of being all in one group.
As many eyes as possible on something, it's going to be better.
Totally.
So.
Absolutely. I think that's. I think it's interesting that because some are very design heavy if they're for the world or for the lore. Obviously, it all comes from design or narrative. But then ultimately, right, there's places that there's flexibility, which is great. I think that allows more creativity from everybody when you have a little level stake in the product. That's great. So what kinds of things are you given before you start working on a character or model to give you an idea of what to make and how much freedom? We kind of talked about that a little bit, but what kinds of things now? Like, let's talk about details you would get from either design or from the Worm conversation, right? Like, what are the specific aspects or? Yeah,
so in terms of the design brief, that kind of runs through materials and stuff like that, and that helps guide us towards that stuff for texturing. And the rest is just the concept. Because Chris gets his eyes on that, gets approved, and then it's, all right, make this. Get it in game.
and go.
There you go.
Yeah,
do the thing.
Do the thing.
There you go. Awesome. That's great. That's wonderful. And this kind of for both of you guys, as an artist, what's the most challenging aspect in creating a character from very different perspectives or different backgrounds? Like, what's the most challenging aspect to creating one of these characters?
I think for me, definitely, because I'm trying to come from the making sure, we could ship the product with these characters, right? That's my primary objective, Hit the visual quality bar, be shippable. Those are the two challenges, right? So for me, the biggest challenge is creating a character that's up to these standards, and we're, how good Corey, Omar, Josh, our incredibly talented character team, how good they can make a character their ability. I want to be able to make sure that that is getting into the game, and we're not downsizing. And you know, you get. I think we've all
Cutting
played
corners to make it work.
We've all played games where we've seen assets in the game, and you're like, I bet you that's not what it looked like when the artist was done with it,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
And so the one thing that I really wanted to make sure of is when the artist was done with it, that's what it looks like in the game, right? And so that to me is the challenging thing, is hitting all your performance specs, but keeping that quality, you know, up, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's tough.
Anything else challenging from your perspective in creating one of these characters?
I don't know if there's any one specific thing, but it's usually with every character there's one thing where it's a different aspect of the pipeline, where it's like on this one the game mesh is being really annoying because you worked on it for a while and it's like you need to go back, fix stuff, update the UVs and move back on the texturing, and it really depends on the asset.
Sure.
Because sometimes it just runs smooth and other times there's one part where it's just like I can't get this approved.
Yeah, I can't move through it. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
But you could extrapolate all kinds of reasons for why that's happening.
And I mean, there's a lot of challenges too. Like the character artists have to do things that normally I think in the past has been generally accepted as, you know, okay, like hard surfaces, anything that's metal. You know, the character artists have to build this topology that now supports a hard object on top of an object that's rigid. And so, like previously, you know, played like The Witcher, they move their arm up and down, the metal bends and everything, and you could just retopologize it. But now, you got to be like, how does the sternum like?
That is a challenge.
Getting it approved by rigging, right? You got to like, well, okay, well, we have this chest plate. Can you bend in all the things that you need? Because now we're, I think to me, I see that, you know.
Yeah, there was plenty of this. Like I was working on a character and it had a metal chest plate, and it's like, well, how's their arm gonna go forward? So it's like, you know, you start to nudge things in and things get ironed out, but it's like frustrating. It's like, why didn't I think of that?
Some of the
I was
kinds of-
doing this because like it looks pretty.
And then our rigger tries to put like hockey gear on us, and he's like, "Could you do that in this?"
Yeah, he does.
And then I'm like, "No," and he goes, "And you can't do it in the game."
Some of the
Wear this all
Some
day.
of the coolest looking stuff generally never really would work in reality, right? You'd put it on and you're like,
Yeah, in the end, it is a game, so there's the balance between cool
Yeah,
and
sure,
functional.
absolutely.
You need both.
Totally,
And
absolutely.
you just gotta find a balance. And,
But at the same time, you know, I've known a lot of people that are quite successful art-wise with the mentality that a good design will sell itself
Sure.
visually,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So if you make it work and you make it work real, theoretically, that will translate pretty well on the screen, especially if you have some art direction on top of a good design.
totally. Yep.
Absolutely.
And with that, gentlemen, I think we've
that it?
come to the end, sadly, but we've got a couple quick updates before we wrap up. A couple community updates. The Prowler art contest ends today. MS Paint contest. Did you guys jump in and do that? Am I going to see a forest?
not.
Okay.
I didn't even know about it.
That ends today. That ends today.
How long do I have?
Well, today, end of day. This is
End
it.
of day?
We should wrap it up.
I'm not working
That's
today.
his focus. And then next week, live stream is at 1 p.m. PST, now that we've transitioned times. So a reminder, we will not have Around the Verse, nor will we have Reverse the Verse next week. So it'll all be wrapped up into our live stream. We look forward to having you back in this same place next Friday. And thanks to our wonderful guests, the character team, character folks, then and now, Forrest and Corey. Thank you very much. Jared is secretly working behind the scenes, so thank you, Jared, for helping us with this. Thank you all subscribers, and we'll see you guys next week for our wonderful live stream. Take care.